No, you got to do it like Wayne's World. You got to say 5, say 4.
We'll get better.
We're gonna have a slumber party, and everyone's gonna watch Wayne's World.
Can we do that tomorrow, actually?
No.
It's school night.
Yeah.
I gotta work.
Yeah. All right, so here we go. All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another week of Stormed Appetit with your hosts. As always, it's me, Kip, and to my right, I got Bama. Say hey, Bama.
Hey, how's it going?
There we go. We're coming to y'all this week from Boulder. We're at HOPLARK's. I guess, is it a taproom and distillery? Brewery. God, I don't know why I have the distillery term in my head. We're here at HopLARK HopTea with Dean Ebhart and Andrew Markley. That's the second time I've done that. Down here at 3220 Prairie Avenue in Boulder. They're one of the companies that is kind of brought up from the community here in Boulder. They started I'm going to let them describe it, but it's a hopped tea company. Non-alcoholic. So I'm actually sober right now and fucking up this intro, but it's totally normal. So we're excited to be here. Thank y'all for joining us, gentlemen.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, you say that now. 45 minutes, you're going to get the hell out of here. But we like to start every episode the same way. We want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Live Nation Colorado and the Fillmore Denver, Live Well Enlightened Health and Cannabis. Thank y'all so much. Without y'all, we wouldn't be possible. Go follow them on Instagram, Facebook. Check out their website if you need tickets for concerts. Chris likes to start this episode the same way every time, just to kind of feel everybody out. Chris, I'm going to let you take the reins. I'm going to pour myself a drink.
All right, let's do it. All right, so Dean, are you a transplant or a native?
I'm a transplant.
You're a transplant. Where are you coming from?
So, grew up in Chicago.
Okay.
Moved here from Chicago, yeah.
You moved here from Chicago?
Yeah. Went back after college.
How long have you been out here?
3.5 years. I feel like in this town, it makes me feel like an OG for sure. Every week I meet new people that just moved here.
Really? Well, I guess this is the first time. This is the first town I moved to when I moved out here 10 years ago. So I guess it makes sense. But 3.5 years, you loving it?
Yeah, it's great. Everything, man.
And so did you come out here for the tea company, or did you come out here and you're like, fuck it, I got to get away from the Midwest winters?
My wife and I were like...
You may want to get closer on the mic.
My wife and I were like, the only chance we have is right now to get the hell out of Chicago. Otherwise, we're stuck here for the rest of our lives. We had a kid going into kindergarten, and we're like, let's just go. And then 3 weeks later, we lived out here. So it was...
I like that impromptu, and I did something similar, but I did the same thing. I moved to Boulder. It's like a perfect little nest, and now I live in Denver, but it's a great place to land. Everyone will kind of help you out around town. They're like, oh, poor boy from Mississippi doesn't know how to use a crawl swall.
Right.
We'll show him how to use it.
One question, though. Did this decision to move here happen during the winter in Chicago, or was this...
It was kind of bubbling to the surface during the winter.
Yeah,
and then
the winter there sucks.
And then, totally sucks. I actually didn't know how awesome the winters were out here until I moved out here. Nobody does. It should keep it that way. I thought it was going to be cold as hell, and no, it's amazing. It was more like sunshine and mountains that really drove that, and then the idea of skiing in the winter, but and I've rolled into that pretty well. It's nice.
Nice. And so we are sitting here also with your co-owner of HopLARK Tea. It's Andrew Markley. Did I get the name right?
You got it.
Nailed it.
Yes. All right, things are looking up. Andrew, transplant or native?
Transplant.
From?
Madison, Wisconsin.
Oh, so y'all are both casserole kings over here. Nicely done.
Not hot dish, but casserole, yeah.
Yeah. Wait, who the fuck calls it a hot dish?
Minneapolis.
Minnesotans.
It's so strange. That's a part of the world I just don't know about.
And Zane is from the Rust Belt. He's the Western PA guy, so he does our East Coast stuff. We're Southern. It's casserole country down there as well. Don't get us wrong. We love our cream of mushroom as well. But yes, okay. So from Wisconsin, what brought you west?
Dean convinced me to move out as well. I was living a cushy life as an academic scientist. And
what are you?
I'm a PhD biochemist. I was working in a lab.
Super nerd.
Dude, super nerd.
Fuck, where'd you go to school first of all?
You cannot say those words and sound cool.
Hold on, where'd you go to college?
I went to college at Carnegie Mellon with Dean. So Pittsburgh.
Y'all are both fucking nerds.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, but he's more of a nerd. Let's just all focus on that.
I went to class.
Okay.
So it's very important.
Are y'all
went to class.
Are y'all
doctors?
freshman year roommates or shit?
We played Ultimate Frisbee together freshman year. So
okay.
We did the whole year.
Sling the bee? Y'all still play?
When we have time.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to find the time, but yeah, we love it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so back to Andrew.
Yeah.
After Carnegie Mellon, did you go to
went to
Oxford?
San Diego to get my PhD, and then back to Wisconsin to do my postdoc.
What is that?
It's
Like work with
you
cheese?
You do the same thing as when you're doing your PhD. You just get paid a little more money.
Ah, nice.
Growing pond scum. That was what I was doing.
I can't believe he was able to pry you away from this.
I know. And but I mean, he called me up one night and he's like, let's get out of here. Let's move somewhere and do something else. I'm like, sounds pretty good. I really can't make much less money than I'm making at the moment. So
Turns out.
He's totally wrong.
Shitty fucking winters also.
But hey,
Yeah.
you're not growing pond scum because I'm sure that shit stinks.
it does. Yeah, it does.
Both the job and the actual sim is what you're saying? Yeah. Okay, so, and I guess y'all come out, were you the 3-week period as well?
It took me a little longer to
Not everybody can just quit their pond scum.
I had to, take care of my pond scum. I had to pass them off. They're my babies. But I moved out probably 2 or 3 months after Dean did.
Okay.
So not too much longer. My dad grew up in Colorado, so I was out here a lot. He grew up in Denver. So I at least knew the area a bit. We have a cabin up in Estes Park that my great grandfather had.
what's up?
So that was a good connection. But yeah, I
Not
love
hard
it out
to
here
sell.
too.
Yeah. Okay, so y'all moved out here a couple years ago, and then were y'all just stewing around like thinking, we're just fucking geniuses. I mean, would you want to split an atom or maybe make some, dank-ass brewed tea? What were y'all thinking? How did this come to fruition?
There wasn't that much thought behind it.
Sorry, we're on totally different wavelengths, guys. I'm just going to go ahead and warn y'all. Y'all are a lot smarter than I am, so I don't know exactly how to phrase words.
You're doing amazingly.
Stop it. You made me blush.
So I was fat. So that was the start. And I had
What are you talking, like deuce and a half,
I had to fix that. I wasn't quite that fat. I
I was
like,
thick too.
Yeah, were you?
When I
call him
first
Fat
moved
Chris.
out here.
No way.
Yeah, well, I lived in
Dude,
London.
you're like 150 pounds.
Dude, I lived in London for grad school, and I was like 250 by the time I
Holy
got
shit.
back.
But
yeah.
But there's no good food in England.
It's dark and there's a lot of beer, and you can eat fish and chips, and it's not a fad diet.
So good.
So, okay,
good for
Never
you. No, I was like 240, and just kind of like realized I needed to get my shit together, and so I found that the only thing that worked was to stop drinking beer because I drank a lot of it, and it made me fat. So I did that, and like day 25. I was so ready for a beer. I'm like, this sucks.
I feel like it's penis. Put it closer. You don't have to put it in. Just put it close.
I'm like this. I'm like,
You can't get charged for sexual harassment. It's a podcast.
no, you can't. It's impossible.
It's
It's impossible. So,
No login.
so day 25, I just wanted a damn beer, and I was the beer scene in Chicago. Andrew was convinced, he was in town, he was convinced the beer scene in Chicago sucked. And it did until right around the time where I was like, I want to show him off at this brewery. And so I took him there, even though I wasn't drinking, which was a mistake. And I grabbed his beer and gave it a smell and was like, what the hell? I miss this shit. Like, we should figure something out. I should participate in this.
So the idea came to y'all before y'all even moved out here?
It was in Chicago. It was like right before we moved. And then, and it was like, just imagined taking the malt out of beer and putting tea in. Like it just kind of like it just hit like that.
Okay, but were y'all tea drinkers? Or
I mean, yes, but
Andrew,
not.
do you drink tea?
Yeah.
Hot
Yeah.
or cold? Damn, that was a question for later. Don't answer it.
Okay.
All right, back to the story. Sorry.
but no, because I was
I'll have time to figure that out though. That's
Yeah,
good.
see? Just giving you a heads
I was just thinking, like, how do you? I mean, you obviously have to have some knowledge or interest with tea, just to kind of think, like, oh, this would be great with hops.
Yeah, I think Andrew was probably more into tea than I was. I knew enough to know that like there's a ton. So we were homebrewers, right? And
Right.
when you make beer, you start with the malt. The malt, there's like all kinds of malt. There's like dark malt, there's light malt. They make different beers. And so in my mind, it was like, well, shit, there's all kinds of different types of tea, kind of the exact same thing. It just doesn't have any sugar in it. And somehow that all kind of hit together at this one moment of wanting to drink a beer. And I said the thing of, why don't we replace malt with tea? And it just kind of made sense to both of us. And the next day we're homebrewers, so we had this stuff, right? So
what were y'all stewing at home? Well, we can dive off of the non-alcoholic. What were y'all making at home?
Dude,
Did it suck or was it
we
good?
were terrible homebrewers.
I was like, you have a chemist over here. I was expecting something really gnarly.
We were so bad at it, and it was like a combination of like all brewing is cleaning, and neither of us wanted to like put all the effort into that, so we didn't do enough of it. And we're the pickiest beer drinkers on the planet, so like anything we made wasn't as good as what the professionals were making. So we're like, yeah, this kind of sucks.
So were y'all thinking like, oh, we're going to come out to Boulder and create a small brewery, microbrew, and then go from that to New Belgium? Was the original goal?
I mean, we talked
We're too smart to fail.
We talked. That's not true. That's not true. Impossible. We talked about starting a brewery for a decade, and we just never pulled the trigger. And the truth is, like, thank God, because there's just so many breweries out there. There's so much noise right now. And, a lot of that was why we didn't do it, because it just wasn't that different or interesting. And when this hit, we're both like this. I mean, if we can get this to work, it's going to be the thing we want to do, and we're going to make the product we want to drink, and people might actually like it. Like that was the deal.
Okay, so that night when you came up with this, did you drink a beer?
No, it's that part of the story. No, I didn't drink his beer. I just I think I did 5 days later when I finished over the 30 days or something. But and I still drink. I still take time off. It's changed my relationship with alcohol for a lot of to the positive. But we try to be non-judgmental about it. Like, we're not here to say that everyone needs to be sober and that's the thing. Like, we're not into that at all. We're more about everyone's on their own path, and whether that leads to losing 50 pounds like I did, or getting sober, or just taking a couple nights off a week, that's cool.
Fuck yeah, snag a HopTea.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad idea. It's just substituting it. I mean, I cut beer out of my diet for the same reason.
Yep.
And what I did was supplement it with red wine, and so it works perfectly.
Yeah.
Well, it's getting drunker.
It's drunker and healthier. That's good.
That's what I think. So. And this is a better option than both. So it's not bad if we dial it back here in 2020. So. Andrew, let me ask you a question then. Mm-hmm. So what was the beer that inspired it? What was the beer that you ordered? You have to remember it was yesterday.
It was a double IPA.
Damn it.
It was.
Y'all gonna fit in perfect out here in Boulder.
It was Buckle Down Brewing, and I think maybe the beer was called Belt and Suspenders. If I had to actually,
he has a much better memory than
remember it. But it's a pretty good beer. It smells good, it tastes good, and we should reach out to those guys and be like, hey, you did this thing.
Send them a case and be like, hey. Thanks for the inspiration.
Yeah, thanks for the inspiration. You have no idea what this is, but we appreciate it.
Don't worry about it. You'll hear about it.
Slap a Stone Appetite sticker on it. Tune in to episode 91.
Okay, so now we're out here in Boulder.
Are we using our degrees? I'm fascinated with people that are brilliant. And so, are you the chemist that's behind? Are you the wizard behind it all? Behind the collaborations and the products?
Yeah.
How do you drum up these recipes?
The calm
there
was a bit of time. There's a bit of time between that day and the time when we're this tastes palatable.
Dude, it sucked. It sucked for a year.
The trial
and
error process.
It sucked for so
long. So we the story when we tried it, we tried a whole bunch of tea. We put hops in it, and we had our his wife was probably there. I think was there, and had friends okay, try this thing, and we tried it, and it was terrible. It was really bad, and but for some reason we didn't give up, which was
really
amazing.
Stubborn.
Yeah.
So what are you tweaking when you do this? Is it less hops, more longer time, or something like that?
Sure, I bet it's all sorts of shit.
Yeah, break it down. Be the nerd.
It's a lot of things.
Shoot.
Some of which I'm not going to tell you about.
Yeah, you don't have to reveal your secrets.
But it was, it's mostly around paying a lot of attention to everything, right? Because tea is so, it's so unforgiving because it doesn't have a whole bunch of flavors from malt or whatever.
Right.
And so the tea has to rock. and then the hops can't overpower the tea. So you have to the right ratios.